The sun has just peeked out, which I'm gonna take as a sign that now is the time to press record. Yeah, welcome to another grey day in Ireland. They're all like this, I'm afraid. Hi, if you've not met me before, my name is Nadia. I never introduce myself in these videos, so I'm gonna try and do it. I'm a gal who knits in Ireland, and I also do other creative things that I like to talk about in these videos on this website called youtube.com. Honestly, I was probably going to push this video out another week or so just because of how sick I am. I've been sick twice in January, which I think is just not fair. It's just not okay. Just a regular cold each time. I think maybe this last one was the flu. But yeah, I've had this for about a week and a half now and I still sound really, really congested. My partner reminded me that I could be like this for another while, so I thought I should just go ahead and film this video, but I apologize that I sound like this again. I don't know when I'm not gonna sound like this. It's very depressing. I need to just go and, I don't know, retire into like a salt cave or something. It's just not fair, but here we are, and yeah, hopefully this isn't too painful for you to listen to. Once again, it's been a while since I've shown all of the things that I've been knitting on. It just seems to happen this way, but to be honest, I'm not that mad. I actually kind of like spacing these videos out a bit more. I'm a really slow knitter. It takes me a really long time to knit things. That's not news to anyone. I think it also takes me a long time to sort of switch from project to project. I don't tend to have a lot of whips going like at one time. I tend to just get kind of hyper focused on one. If I have other lingering whips, then sometimes they get worked on in between. But yeah, I'm not great at sort of keeping like 5 whips going at once. So yeah, I think this kind of schedule works out better for me, but you can tell me what you guys think. Having said that, I don't remember where I left off with all of the things that I talked about last time. I think it was just before Christmas, I believe. I think it was like early December, and I was prepping a bunch of things for Christmas. So I'm just gonna rapid fire go through all of the things that I knit as Christmas gifts for people that I knit and then I made. I think a lot of it was actually sewing, because the knit piece you've already seen because it was in my what I made for 2024, and the sewing pieces, I don't have them, so it's not as interesting. Also, Christmas was like a really long time ago and these are all really Christmassy things, so I'm just gonna rapid fire go through those, and then we can get them out of the way and talk about the more interesting winter things that I'm working on at the moment. Okay, so knitting wise, you saw me work on the Corshaven cardigan. I finished that on Christmas Eve, I believe, and then I blocked it just afterwards and added buttons and things like that. It's now a finished object. You've seen it on my partner. And as I said in that video, I'm a bit disappointed with it. I think maybe my gauge was too loose as well. That's just the recurring theme of 2024, that one. But yeah, I just think that the yarn is maybe a bit too drapey for the stitch pattern. And it just doesn't really give like enough structure, I feel like. And then I just don't like the way that the pattern is constructed. And just like the lack of shaping at the shoulders, I don't like at all. I will do some things to remedy it, but just generally I'm just a little bit disappointed with this one. And there's a part of me that wants to frog it and start again. But I'm really bad at knitting knits that aren't selfish. So yeah, I probably won't do that. But yeah, I just feel like it's just not the best that it could be. I also think maybe the block for me is the color. It's not really colors that I would choose personally or that I would wear. So I think that, yeah, there's just something about it that I just don't like. But the recipient, my partner loves it, and he wants the fixes at the collar, but he does actually really enjoy wearing it. And when he wore it to like a work conference and he got loads and loads of compliments. So I think that's a win. And to be honest, it's not for me, it's for him. So I'm gonna do whatever He says that he wants and just fix the ribbing portions were the problem. So I think I did the ribbing too thin. So in the inspo image, it's based on a designer cardigan that Ryan Gosling wore in an interview. And the ribbing on that one is really quite thick, and I hadn't looked at the photo before starting the ribbing, so I just didn't quite do it thick enough. And I think I want to do some sort of witchcraft in the ribbing section where I can sort of, I'd already done, I don't think I mentioned this, I did short rows in the ribbing. I started the ribbing round, and then I got to the certain point near the top, I did a couple of rows of short rows near the neck to sort of just make it thicker and kind of build out that space between that wasn't there in the shaping of the neck. And I'm annoyed that I now have to go do that again. But yeah, I will probably do some witchcraft where I'll integrate those short rows. I'll pull in less stitches, so I'll pick up less stitches to make it tighter. I think I'm gonna also, on the advice of one of you guys, drop down quite a few needle sizes and do like a really, really small rib and do it for longer. So it's gonna be like the best ribbing. It's just an odyssey of ribbing, and hopefully that will fix a lot of the problems that I have. I've even had thoughts, you know, that I'll like go in and seam in some more fabric around the neck, because it's just really too open, I think. And because of that, my partner keeps pulling it up, but then that means that the back is too short and then the front is then too long. And yeah, there's just a lot of things wrong with it. And generally it was just a bit of a disappointment, but c'est la vie. We make mistakes, I guess that's the point of knitting. Yeah, rapid fire that is not actually rapid fire is probably my speciality. But yeah, okay, sorry, moving swiftly on. I think I mentioned I was sewing some, what are they called? Stockings for my sister, because I'd sewn stockings for my other sister the previous year for Christmas. And she has a new family now, and so they deserved their own set of stockings as well. So I'll put up some images of the finished ones. I finished those well before December so that they could have them in time for Christmas. And yeah, nothing to be said. I had a good time making them. They were slightly more complex than the first set that I made in that I quilted them. So, you know, I put batting in between, sandwiched in between 2 layers of fabric, and then quilted some lines across them. And I did that for all 3. Yeah, no, for all 4. So I made 3 for the adults, and then I made 1 for the dog. I spelt, I knew it was going to happen. When you embroider names on things, you just know that you're going to spell it wrong. And I double checked as well. I double checked, and I was like looking through my messages and trying to find any time that I'd written Matty's name, the dog. And I've been basically writing it wrong for however long he's been alive. So that's on me. That's definitely on me. But yeah, it's an easy fix for next year. I just need to find that same embroidery thread and add a Y instead of an I. But yeah, god damn it, I knew I was gonna spell something wrong. But that's okay. She was very happy with them, I think. And then I also made for my sister's daughter a mobile. I've talked about it in my Christmas gifts video that popped off. Still can't believe that happened. And yeah, I made a mobile out of 100% wool felt. It was actually a big palaver. I ordered some from the website that I usually get it from, which I'll link in the description part if you're interested. But yeah, I usually get it from this one place that specializes in 100% wool felt, which is impossible to find nowadays. And I sent it to a PO box, and then I went up to Northern Ireland to go get it. But there was a whole palaver, and it didn't get delivered in time, and then it got sent back. And so I didn't actually get the wool that I was, like the sort of breadth of colours that I was hoping to get, but I still had quite a lot left over from last year, where I made a different mobile for my friend's baby. She's going for like a sort of like cloud celestial vibe in their nursery. So I went ham on the clouds and the stars, and I added a hot air balloon, and the basket, this is my favorite bit, the basket on the hot air balloon, I like hand wove the little basket out of cotton string, very painstakingly with like a needle and thread, or like a needle through the cotton. It probably would have been easier to actually just weave it and then sew it together. But yeah, anyway, I did that after the fact. They were also very pleased with that. I think it's like a nice heirloom. Is that how you say that? An heirloom piece? Did I make anything else? Did I make anything else? The stockings, the mobile, the cardigan. I was going to make some socks and then I chickened out. Yeah, I think that's it. Oh, no, and then, okay, I remembered. I think because I started on my sewing bug, and I had the sewing machine out already, I was kind of in a sewing mood. And also my youngest nephew, kids, my youngest nephew had, I didn't know what to get him for Christmas, and my sister mentioned that he was upgrading to a big boy bed, and he was, you know, sort of evolving, growing out of his regular bed, his smaller sort of like cot bed. And so she was like, you know, like any cute bedding or anything for his bed would be appreciated. So I did buy some cute bits off of Zara Home, but at the same time, I made like a 50 by 50 barn star, I think it's called, quilted pillowcase for a pillow on his bed. I just googled like Barnstar pillow, I think. I don't know. I found some like free pattern, and I followed that pretty much to the T. It's like very like 101 quilting. It wasn't anything super, you know, revolutionary or anything. But I had a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the fabrics that I used. I had some scraps of linen. I had some scraps of like floral fabrics, and then some like kind of like a Liberty vibe, and then also some checks and things like that. It was kind of like a sophisticated, like boyish florals, if that makes sense. And it was so quick and it was really fun, and it really sort of reignited my like quilting bug. A long time ago I made I think like queen sized, a very large sized quilt for my sister out of fabric that she'd bought while she was working in Malawi. And I really enjoyed making that. And it was my first time quilting, and I designed the whole thing in Excel. I made loads of mistakes and it was a bit of a mess, but yeah, I really enjoyed making that. And this kind of, again, itched that same part of my brain that really enjoys quilting. And it was just very soothing, you know, because it was like just following instructions, just, you know, a little bit of sewing. I was like batch sewing, so, you know, I was like doing it as efficiently as possible. And then you go over to the ironing board, and then you press all of the things, and then you come back, and it's a very soothing experience, I feel like. So yeah, I enjoyed making that a lot, and I need to actually make another one, because now that my nephew has one, the other nephew wants one, obviously. So yeah, I need to get on that and make another one. And I'd love to make them more pillowcases in the future, because I think it's the type of thing that makes like a really nice visual impact in a kid's room. And me and my sister are both obsessed with this inspo image of a kid's room. It's like saved on my Pinterest board. She sent it to me quite a few times. So I'd love to make some pillows that look a bit like that one day, with some applique and some sewing. But since then, yeah, I haven't really touched my sewing machine. So it comes in drips and drabs, the sewing mojo, I have to say. And I would love to get back into it this year. More on that in another video. But yeah, that was everything I made for Christmas. I had a good time. It was well received. And then since then I've finished 2 pieces. One you've seen, one I haven't. I cast on and finished since the last video. And yeah, I think that's it. I think that's all the knitting I've done. I have a whip that I took back up, the Dagmar jacket, which I'll show you in a minute. And I have a couple of things that I'm about to cast on, or that I'm thinking about casting on. But yeah, I really have just been knitting on these two things, which doesn't make for a really interesting podcast, unfortunately. But yeah, hopefully you'll enjoy the pieces. I don't know. Yeah, in my previous video I mentioned I had cast on this, which is the Sophie scarf. I'd started off with the increase rate for the Sophie shawl, but quickly switched to the increase rate from the Sophie scarf because it's a really small gauge. I knit this on 3.5mm needles, and I used the Izzy tweed that I bought in Copenhagen. And yeah, this was just my like mindless whatever project. I had it in the car. I took it to Belgium when I went over there for Christmas. I took it to Spain as well when I went to Madrid at the end of January. Yeah, the end of January. And that's where I finished it. Yeah, I basically, I think I just needed a break. There was a lot of like textured projects that I was working on at the end of last year. And I also, I think I mentioned it a couple of times, but I had this pain in my hand that was, I think I self-diagnosed as having a ganglion cyst, which is just the grossest of terms. But yeah, I had like a sort of a bump that was showing up on this finger when I was knitting. And thankfully, so I took a break after Christmas. I think I took like a week, or like, was it a week? Maybe like 4 days, or maybe that was before Christmas. Anyway, I took some time off from knitting and I really scaled it back because it was the bump would appear, and then if I kept knitting on it, then it would be tender. And I think it wasn't hurting and it wasn't impeding anything, but it was just kind of worrying me a little bit. And I think also it was affecting when I was doing yoga. You know, you're putting your hands on the ground, and anytime I kind of pressed against it, it just felt not bad, but just uncomfortable, and I didn't like it. So I've yet to go to a doctor. I do need to go to a doctor and just have them give an opinion, but I think it's what I said it is. Apparently they're called, I've been told this by multiple people now, they're called like a Bible something, a Bible wart, a Bible whatever, because people used to like smash them with Bibles and then they'd explode or like burst, and then it would be fine. But apparently if you burst them, then they can come back. I don't know. I will wait to be told this by a doctor, I guess, before I do any of those things. But yeah, I think that was what was wrong with my hand, and I have a feeling it's something to do with my purling, or, you know, switching between knitting and purling, as I was doing on the Korshaven, and I was also working on the Dagmar jacket around the same time as well, and that's like a lot of cables and purling. So I feel like that was the thing that was causing that, was all of that texture that I was knitting, and I just needed something that was like really easy, just a knit stitch, which is what the Sophie shawl is known for. And yeah, it was a good project for that. It was also, you know, something that was like really mindless, that I could just not think too much about, to the point where I messed it up so bad. I had talked about this on Instagram, but so I haven't woven in the ends yet, but it's a good way to show. So this is the middle point. I've also like blocked it really aggressively to try and get some width out of it. But this is the middle point. The idea was that I had 2 hanks of the Azure tweed, and that I would knit one, get to the end of that one, and then start decreasing, and then knit the other one, and I'd have no yarn left, and that I would have an equal distribution of things on either side. But if you fold it in half, bearing in mind I've stretched it a bunch now, I think you can't see it as bad now because of all of the stretching, but it's completely uneven. And I realized that as I was knitting it, and then at that point you can even see like this, the back section is way thicker, like in width, than the front section. So somehow I lost a bunch of stitches as I was decreasing, and I was just decreasing too quickly. And I realized that as I was knitting it, and then at that point I changed the decrease rate to be much slower, so that I could get more out of the scarf, because I had this like massive ball of yarn left, and I was getting to the end really, really quickly. So I tried to slow it down, and even doing that, I still have loads left. I need to weigh it. I don't know where it is. It's somewhere. I need to weigh it, but I should have like 2 grams, but instead it looks like I have at least like 20 grams out of a 50-gram ball. Yeah, I have no idea what I did, because it's the world's simplest pattern, and I cannot for the life of me figure out what I did wrong. Admittedly, I do the increase and the decreases in my head, so like I don't put stitch markers in, so I'll do an increase, and then I'm like, and then I just kind of count in my head as I'm knitting. I'm trying not to reveal the increase rate lest petite knit comes down and smites me. I'm keeping track of the increase rate in my head, which is not perfect, and I definitely have made some mistakes, but roughly you kind of always end up around the same point. And I don't know what I was doing with my decrease rate that was so different than my increase rate that I ended up with such a different distribution. I don't know. It's a complete mystery to me. Was there a bit where I just like decreased every row? Like, how is it this dramatic? I messed up the world's simplest pattern, and like, whatever, it's a scarf and nobody can see it, and I don't think you can really tell, but it's still, I'm just still kind of like, well, I also have this like ball of yarn left and I don't know what to do with it, which I could go back in and I could pick up stitches and I could cut it and then I could add more length, but I'll be honest, the scarf is really long and it's not very wide, which is not great. And I kind of wish I had done the increase rate for the Sophie shawl in the end, because I think that would have been better, because right now it's just a very long flag, and I think with garter as well, it's gonna stretch this way rather than it's not gonna tend to stretch this way. So yeah, it is what it is. I needed just a chill project, but I don't know really how much I actually like the finished object. The yarn is lovely. It's definitely bloomed since I blocked it. It's still damp. And the tweed flecks are really lovely. I'm gonna, again, you guys liked the styling content. Thank you. So I'm gonna try and sort of look at a couple of ways to sort of wear it, and then if I prepare those ways, then maybe I'll reach for it more. Right now I'm not foreseeing myself wearing it a bunch, but let's see. So like if you tie it like this, that's just a bit like 2003, like 2003 circle scarf kind of vibes. I'm not really loving that. What if we do it in the middle? So that's the middle. Okay, so we go double round and we tie. So imagine the ends are woven in. That's cute, I guess. It's giving like, kind of like Camp Counselor, but like very cozy Camp Counselor. Quite like it with the pink. Do we want to fold it double and then do this? Yeah, I don't like that. Don't like that. What about pretending that it's the Sophie hood? So like it's raining, you want to protect your hair a little bit, but not the fringe, because you can never protect the fringe. And then we do a little bit of a babushka. Yeah, the only problem is that it doesn't cover the back at all, which is what I guess the Sophie hood accounts for. yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the best look, to be honest. I think that's kind of cute. But yeah, I mean, it'll be good for traveling because it's quite a light scarf, doesn't take up too much space, but will cover the neck. But yeah, I don't know about this one. Not 100% sure it's a win. Did I say everything that I wanted to say about it? I think so. Did I ever finish my ganglion cyst story? No, I don't think I did. But yeah, so it's gone away. And I've been knitting quite a bit. I knit a whole cardigan. And now I'm back doing the cabling and it hasn't come back again. So I think maybe it was a combination of things. Maybe it was stress. Maybe it was just all of the texture that I was doing. But I'm glad that I kind of took a step back and just did some stockinette for a while. Looking back at all of the things I knit in 2024, I do notice that there's a lot of stockinette there. And it's just kind of like, you know, like big, well, actually there was some cables. There was a little bit of texture, but generally I tend to gravitate towards stockinette pieces. I think a lot of people do. I do get a bit bored, but I do also think my hands need the break. So I don't think they're going to go away in 2025, is basically what I'm going to say. But yeah, but I'm really happy that it hasn't really come back, and that it seems to be manageable for a while, because there was a part of me that it was like, oh God, I'm going to have to get surgery, or I'm going to have to, I don't know, I'm going to go to the doctor and they're going to tell me to stop knitting, which I can do, but I have a YouTube channel now and yeah, an Instagram and people that talk to me about knitting. I don't want to stop, not now. But yeah, hand health is, I need to be better at sort of prioritizing that. How much can you stretch garter? Asking for a friend. Okay, that's finished object number 1. Finished object number 2 is still also extremely damp. I did only block this last night, so I'm actually, sorry, there's a feather in this. I'm actually pleased that it's this dry, because to be honest, nothing dries very quickly in my house, as we have established. You have not seen this at all, I don't believe, in video format, although I've been posting about it quite consistently on Instagram, so you should have quite a good idea if you follow me on there. So this is what we're looking at. This is the cardigan number 9, with a lot of modifications. Well, actually not too many modifications in terms of like the knitting pattern. Yeah, this is my second cardigan number 9. I made another cardigan number 9 last year and I enjoyed the process a lot. It's a very quick knit. It's a really nice fitting knit. I didn't like my version that much because of the fit of it. I found that it was too oversized. I think the yarn that I used stretched out quite a bit when I blocked it. And yeah, just overall, I just wasn't 100% happy with the fit. And yet I still wear it all the time, because it's a grey cardigan. So, I mean, it's going to get a lot of wear. But I did kind of want to give it another go, and do something with a much better fit. And I used what I learned from that cardigan in this cardigan. And I think I got it. I think I got the fit. I need to try it on now that it's been blocked and see if I'm right about that, and if I did get the fit right. But yeah, I made this one a lot smaller. I went down a size. Oh yeah, okay. I know what happened here. So the original cardigan number 9, I knit in a medium. I started off knitting a medium and then I switched to a small because I just found that it was coming out really big along the shoulders, and then it was still quite big once it blocked out. So because of that, I was originally going to knit a small based on what I'd learned from that one, and bearing in mind as well that I'm usually like an L in terms of size. But yeah, so I think the cardigan number 9 is really quite oversized. So I knit a medium I knew I wanted to knit a small for this one, but then my gauge was really quite big because this yarn is way too big for the pattern. So I used the recommended needles, which are 5mm, but this is a DK and a fingering held together, which, does that equal a bulky? Maybe, because I think like a DK and a lace is like an Aran, but I think this is bigger than an Aran, I feel like, in terms of gauge. So it's a really tight gauge because I knit it on the 5mm, but it was still coming out at least 1, maybe 2 stitches bigger than the gauge of the pattern. So because of that, I knit, I believe, the smallest size. Don't quote me on that one. I need to go back and check what I actually did. But yeah, I knit a very small size. And I think it came out just right. I took some footage of me before I blocked it, and I'm going to take some footage afterwards once it's dry. But yeah, I think I did it. I think I did it. I'm not sure. But yeah. And anyway, sorry, this is a dupe of a cardigan that the Instagram person, the Poppy Almond on Instagram wore in a picture, and it was seared into my brain space, you know, like in Severance when they do like the light in the eye. It was like that. It was seared into my brain space. I needed this cardigan, and I had all the yarns, which was great. And it's a Cordera cardigan. I've since found the listing. You can buy it on their website. I believe they're a Spanish brand that do like quite nice wool pieces, like an ethical brand. Really, really lovely pieces. And yeah, I just really loved the sort of multiple yarn, you know, like mismatched kind of vibe of it. And then I took some creative liberties after that. So I added, I don't know, I think I just wanted to play around. I just wanted to have a bit of fun. So I added this circle, just cause I wanted to. It's kind of hidden at the back, so like when you're wearing it, you can't really see it. And then I just added a tiny little, just a little red stripe, because I think I wanted to sort of repeat the red on the other side, but then I think I forgot that I needed to do this like kind of like, it's not duplicate stitching, it's like a faux seam. It's very similar actually to the one that I did on my Marnie sweater, but this was what was on the cardigan. I actually realized I did way too much of it. I did the whole sleeve cap, whereas I think in the original inspo, it's only like part of it. But yeah, I think it kind of adds to it. But at its core, it's just a grey cardigan. Like the base is all just a grey yarn. So yeah, first of all, the yarn. The yarn that I use for the grey part is a vintage yarn, a thrifted vintage yarn that I picked up in a charity shop a while ago. It's like a DK weight. Do I have some of it here? So it's like a DK weight, kind of like charcoal grey, 100% wool yarn. It's got this like really like, I don't have the tag anymore, but it has this like just like really minimalistic just like yellow tag that said like 100% wool. It's called Lucan DK, which suggests to me that it's an Irish yarn. Having said that, I like Lucan's in Dublin, so like, and I don't know if they ever had like wool producers in Dublin. I don't know, maybe they just named it after Lucan. Maybe Lucan is actually just nothing to do with Ireland at all and it's not an Irish yarn. I don't actually know the story of this. I've tried Googling it, I can't find anything. You know, when it comes to these like older yarns, you generally don't know what they are. I will say this is not a nice yarn. It's not soft. I had this color, and then I had another color which was dark gray as well, but it was an even darker, almost black, and I used that to make an Amy slipover. I hated knitting with the darker one. Like it really hurt my fingers, and it was giving me like almost like scratches or blisters. It was like that rough. This one's better, but it's still not nice. Like it's not even that it's itchy. It's just, there's just nothing nice about it. Like I love a rustic yarn, but it's just not, this isn't even that woolly. It's just kind of like quite coarse and quite, dry, but none of that like nice woolliness. It doesn't smell of wool, or like of sheep, you know, it's not very sheepy. I think the problem is that on the label it says that it's moth proof. Nobody knows what that means. What does that mean? What did they do to it? So it's not superwash, because I'm almost 100% sure that you can felt it, but it's moth proof. So they've done some chemical process to it, and I think that's the thing that makes it not nice. And I only had about, I want to say 600 meters. So it came in a much bigger hank. So this is actually, is this just one? Yeah, this is just one bit of it. It came in a hank, like a really, I had two big thick hanks, which when you unraveled them were composed of 4 smaller little hanks in them. And so it was a ball ache to wind. I think at a DK weight, I figured out it was about 600 meters. So I knew I didn't have enough to make anything. That's why I made the Amy slip over off gauge with the other one. And then I knew I could only make like half a cardigan with this one. I do still have quite a bit of it though. So I have this one, and then I have another like half ball. So yeah, just a little bit left, because I don't think this used all that much. And to create that, I mean, it's already kind of like a mild grey, but I did add just this strand of woolly knit in the steel grey. It's the same one that I used for my vest number 1, and yeah, just a strand of it to kind of marl together. If anything, the marl is quite subtle, and I think I was actually kind of looking for something maybe a bit more marled. But I don't hate it. I think it does the job, and I think it actually really looks like the original Cordera one. So that's that yarn. This yarn is Lion Brand Fisherman's Wool in the like off-white color that I picked up when I was in the States. This yarn's amazing. Like, you Americans are sleeping on this. No, I don't think you are. I think everyone knows about fisherman's wool, but it's like, look at the ribbing, guys. Like, look at how neat that is. It comes out like so crisp, and there's something just like so pleasing about it. Like, it's a real basic wool, no frills, but it's just really nice to knit with, and it's really round, and it's just, I just really, really like it. The only issue, you'll laugh. The only issue is that, so I did all of this splitness, right? So like this one is entirely done in the white, and then this one is half done in the white and the grey. I think this is like an Aran, and then this ended up being a bulky, like I think this is thicker. So one sleeve is bigger than the other, obviously, because half of the sleeve is knit in this yarn, and then the full sleeve is knit in this yarn, and so the weights are different, and I knit them on the same needles, and so yeah, so this sleeve is bigger, but it's fine. They're oversized sleeves. I don't think the the untrained eye could even really tell. The other yarn, the red yarn, is a Donegal Bliss Aran Tweed in a red color. I think I've used it in a bunch of things. And I did, for this section, I held it with like a lace weight merino in a red. I'll be honest, I don't really know why. Maybe it was just to bulk it out a bit to kind of get it to the same gauge as the Fisherman's Wool. But yeah, I did that for this bit and this bit where I was knitting. But when I was doing the duplicate stitching, I just held it. I just didn't bother because I think it would have gotten kind of tangled. So that's all of the yarns, and then the modifications that I made. So I just knit the cardigan number 9 as normal, like this part in the walls. What I did do, which I think was actually unnecessary in the end, was that, so in the cardigan number 9, usually you knit these like shoulder panels first, this wedge. And you knit 2 of them. It's like knitting a big swatch, basically. And then once you get to the end, you leave these stitches on hold for you to pick up later, or like to put back on the needle later, and then knit the rest of the sleeve. And it's like one big long continuous thing. I didn't do that. I just bound it off because I wanted that clear separation. I don't know if it was all that necessary because I was just going to change yarns anyway. And my pickup is very neat. It's very nice. But you can't actually really see that I picked it up. So I think it gives the same effect in the end. And I just did an extra step for no reason. But to be honest, I hate leaving things on holes because it's just kind of annoying, and maybe it adds more integrity to the shoulder. Maybe that's something that I gained here. I don't know. But yeah, that was kind of just a silly modification. I have a habit of making collars too big. So I really overcorrected and I picked up way fewer stitches, and I did it on well, actually I think the pattern calls for a 3mm needle, but absolutely impossible. I would have snapped my 3mm needle, I think, if I'd done this yarn on that. So I did a 3.25, which just gives it that slight bigger thickness where I didn't snap. And yeah, it came out really, really small. And then I also added elastic before I blocked it. And I'm happy. I think small is good in this context because usually my collars are way too wide and I don't like that. But we'll see. I think maybe if it's too small, I could always take out the elastic and see where that leaves me. But yeah, I think I think finally I have a collar that's good. Because if you've watched my other videos, you know my gauge is usually quite big. And yeah, I struggle to sort of get down to a size that's right for the collars, and it's not, you know. This is, by the way, this is just a thrifted jumper. I didn't knit this. It's 100% lamb's wool. I love lamb's wool, especially in like vintage jumpers, because I think it ages really beautifully. And I'd love to knit with some lamb's wool in the future. But today is not that day. Okay, what other modifications? I think that's it. These buttons were a really happy accident. I was in Dublin earlier in January and I picked up some other buttons. Well, I was just in a fabric shop looking for things and I saw these and I really liked them. And I didn't even think I was going to use them for this, but it just so happened that they go really, really nicely, I think. And okay, yeah, so the sleeves. So this one is just a regular sleeve. You do the short rows as specified in the pattern. I did everything as specified in the pattern. However, when I got to the circle, at that point, I was knitting in the round and then I stopped knitting in the round. I cast on an extra stitch at each side to give myself like a selvage stitch that I could mattress stitch up later. And then I started working flat so that I could do intarsia with this red, because I didn't want to carry a red yarn behind a white yarn. It also was just going to be like a really big block of color and that wouldn't have been great. So yeah, I switched to intarsia and I just free-handed this circle. Basically, I had really no idea what I was doing, but yeah, I just wanted a big red circle. I'm still not sure if it looks like just like basically like you've had your period, basically. Or is it just the Japan flag? I don't know if it's giving because of the red on the white, but I like it. I don't know. I'm happy with it. I think these sleeves are also longer, so I did all of the decreases as specified, but then I knit for a section for a while longer just to make them the size that I wanted them to be. And then once I was done with the intarsia, I joined back in the round. I decreased those stitches that I had as selvage just so I could do this nice neat ribbing and I didn't have to. Yeah, it made sense. I went back in the round, and then when I was done, I just mattress stitched it together. It's not perfect, but this is the seam. I love mattress stitch. It's one of my favorite techniques. And then for this sleeve, so I toyed with knitting the whole thing separate. So just like, you know, like knitting a panel in white and then a panel in grey, and then mattress stitching them together and then seaming it onto the cardigan. I toyed with doing that. I didn't actually really see the benefit in the end. So what I did instead was that I picked up the stitches around the sleeve. I moved the beginning of round. So usually the beginning of round is kind of like here. Underneath. I didn't want to have basically like a white bit and then a grey bit and then a white bit, because then I would have had 3 balls of yarn to manage instead of 2, and it just seemed a bit unnecessary. So I moved the beginning of round to the back here, and I basically just never joined in the round, because you know you like pick up the stitches and then you kind of have them here, and then at that point you're supposed to join in the round, but I didn't do that. And I again cast on 2 extra stitches so that I would have, actually before I did any of that, I did the short rows, and you're working the short rows flat anyway, so that didn't really affect anything. So I did the short rows, and then I moved the beginning of round to here, and I cast on those extra selvage stitches so I'd have something to seam later. And then I just started working the sleeve flat. And I started off doing the decreases as usual along here, but then I realized if I kept doing that, then the decreases, basically this section would just get smaller and smaller and smaller, and then the grey section would stay the same size, but it would just, I'd get rid of the white section at the end, before the end of the sleeve. So I moved some of the decreases. I moved the decrease to the white decrease to the beginning around here, and then I moved the other decrease to the beginning bit of the grey, just so I was decreasing the grey at the same rate that I was decreasing the white, and then I didn't just completely lose my white bit. Yeah, and then when I was done, so I did the whole thing flat then. I also did it the same I did the ribbing flat, and then I bound off in Italian bind off, and once everything was done, then I mattress stitched it at the end. So neat, the mattress stitch. I just love it. I just really, really love doing it. It's just really fun. There's usually a little bit of a jog at the end. So like usually like one bit kind of ends up a little bit higher than the other. I think just because you're like, you go to 1 and then you go to 1 and then you go to 1 and you go to 1. And so one of them kind of ends up a bit like dickily, like just out of alignment. But you can kind of fudge it with sewing at the end. So I think my white looks a bit bigger here. And I also, when I was doing this, when I was doing the ribbing, I just added in this bit of red. I think because it's in ribbing, it looks kind of funny. Like it looks kind of like 3D, which I didn't necessarily want it to be. But I just basically added in another intarsia step when I was doing that ribbing. And as you may have seen on Instagram, I kind of panicked when it came to the Italian bind off, because I'm like, hang on, I don't know how to do Italian bind off across a bunch of different colors. I don't even know how to do it on 2 colors. I don't know how I'm going to do this. But I just kind of fudged it. Like I just kind of was like, I basically do Italian bind off for every single thing that I knit. And the steps are memorized enough now where I was just kind of like, I was going like behind the red so that I wasn't putting the grey through the red, and basically messing up the colors. And I made sure that, you know, every knit stitch had a thing through it before you bound it off, and every purl stitch had a thing through it before you bound it off. This hopefully will make sense if you've done Italian bind off before, I hope. But yeah, I just kind of fudged it, and it doesn't look perfect, but it doesn't look bad either. So that's that. And another final thing that I forgot to mention was that I knit most of the cardigan in the round because I steeked it. So it actually isn't so bad here. I think I was paying attention to my gauge quite a bit, but I usually have quite a few issues with rowing out. And I think because of my finger, I just didn't want to purl too much. So I made the decision after I joined at the underarm to start knitting in the round rather than working back and forth. And so I cast on, I think, 7 extra stitches, which was definitely too much at this stage. But I cast on a bunch of extra stitches just to have something to steek later on. If you've never steeked before, it's essentially just cutting into your work, securing it first, but you just cut it and then you have two separate bits of knit. I don't usually like steeking because I think that it means that you can't really use the yarn again. So if I wanted to frog this in the future, I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't have a continuous thing of yarn. So I think that kind of limits the options for the yarn. But I think on a project where I'm confident that I'm going to keep the project, and then I'm not going to sort of repurpose it later on, I think it's a really nice technique to use. And I hated working with this yarn enough that I don't think I'm going to knit anything else with it. So here I originally they were joined. I took a video of me steeking actually. Originally it was joined here. And I knit everything in the round, and then I actually cast off those stitches when I was doing the ribbing, because doing ribbing flat and doing ribbing in the round is the same thing, and that gives me sort of one less bit to steek later on. So I started working flat then when I was doing the ribbing. But yeah, I had this sort of big block of like 7 stitches that were sort of making sort of like a big body area. And then before I steeked it, I picked up all of the stitches to do the rib. So I did the ribbing before I started steeking it, which was kind of annoying actually, because you've got this big knit section and then you're trying to like pick up the stitches and you have to go behind, and so you can't really see what you're doing. That was kind of annoying. But I think it's good if you feel nervous about steeking. I think it's good to sort of pick them up beforehand. And then at least I knew I had like a really clean line when I was cutting into it, and that I was, picking up all of the right places. And then once I'd basically finished the entire cardigan, at that point I sewed, I did a running sort of in a waste yarn, in a big bright red yarn. I did stitch down the middle just to show where I would be cutting, and then on either side of that I did 2 lines of sewing on the sewing machine, and I did a straight stitch, and then I did a zigzag stitch over it, just to sort of like really secure the stitches. And yeah, I think it's fine. It's not going anywhere. I was a bit worried just because this yarn is like moth proof. I thought maybe it was actually like, like a superwash-esque, like maybe it wouldn't stick to itself. And I don't think it's really sticking to itself, but I also don't think it's really going anywhere either. I think the fact that it's a really big gauge helps, that like when you're doing the sewing stitches, you're almost guaranteed to get through something. Anyway, I think it'll be fine. If I'm really worried about it, like this flap is quite big, I might sew it down later. If I find that it's flipping out. And I have the 2 rows of stitches, so if one starts unraveling, at least I have another safety net and I have time to do something about it. But yeah, I think it was successful, and I'm very proud of this. I think it's good. I think it's really fun whilst also being a basic. I think I'm probably gonna wear it a lot. Yeah, I think this is the other thing that I really hate about this yarn. It was the same with the other one, is it smells weird. Like it smells kind of like mothballs, which maybe that's what the moth proofing is that they just, I don't know, like infuse it with mothballs. But yeah, I don't like the smell of this yarn, even though it's like fully washed, it has wool wash on it or whatever. So yeah, that was very long. But to be fair, you haven't seen this cardigan at all since I last spoke to you. Oh my god, are the sleeves that long? Oh dear god. Okay, hang on. I think I blocked it wider, but having done that, like the length of the sleeve is also really different. Hang on, okay, hang on. That's where the sleeve starts. Yeah, my sleeves are really different sizes, but that's okay. It's fine. I was hoping the fisherman's wool would actually block out quite a bit and that I would gain space, but I don't think so. I don't think I want that one. But that's okay. I basically just worked on this. When I wasn't working on the scarf, I basically just worked on this. Oh, we have light. Oh. Yeah, I'm pretty impressed with how much I knit on this, and that's one other thing from my knitting plans video that I've already done and dusted, so that's nice. Now the only other WIP I'm currently working on is this one. This is my, can I even put it on? I can kind of put it on. Yay. There we go, there she is. This is my Dagmar jacket. This one, yeah, I mean, I'm being really basic with my petite knit pattern, but I've wanted a cabled cardigan in a sort of like off-white color for a long time, to replace one that I had that was fast fashion. And yeah, I think I decided on the Dagmar as being, like, me and the rest of the knitting internet decided on the Dagmar as being the cardigan that I wanted to knit, and I started her before Christmas and took a break, I think. So I just knit the back panel, and then I think I just stopped at that point when you take the, what's that called? When you break the yarn and then you're you know, picking up for the left front and the right front. I stopped at that point, and then I didn't really pick it up after that. I think I just you know, it's that mental block where you have to get back into the stitch pattern. Yeah, I think the world and their auntie has already knit this, and I'm just taking it really slow. I think as well because of my hand issues, I just wanted to not knit too much on it at a time, and I'm enjoying taking it really slowly. Having said that, in about 2 evenings I did this right front. So I picked up from the right front and did this dreaded cable section. I made quite a few modifications actually to make the cables line up. I think that is a lot of people's pet peeve. A lot of people's pet peeve with this pattern, oh yeah, that's why, okay, is that the cables don't really line up at the shoulder. And so I made some extra, it's not perfect, but I made some extra effort to take some advice of other people that have done it before, and then also just do my own kind of like bidouille, my like own little modifications to make sure that they lined up as much as possible. And I did feverishly before going to sleep the other night. I wrote them all down on my Ravelry project page, just in case anyone else wants to follow the same things. And yeah, before I forgot basically what I did, because I'll need it as well on the other side. But it's essentially, I just picked up like one more stitch and then decreased it later. And then this bit was misaligned for a while. Like there was more purl stitches on this side than on that side. And then I just basically fixed it later on and then made it more equal for the rest of the cardigan. But at the beginning, you kind of need it to be slightly misaligned, because that way it will actually line up with the cables. I think it's a good job. It's not perfect. I think it's actually really hard to do it really perfectly, just because of the nature of like picking it up and having everything line up and still keeping the stitch count. But I think it's good, and I keep, you know, you've done a good job when you keep like looking back and staring at it and you're like, yeah, that looks good. So oh god, I can't laugh without that bit in my, can you hear that? So yeah, that's where I'm at with the Dagmar. I also just want to note that I added this 4-stitch braid along the sides of both the back panel and the front panel. And I will get rid of it when I join, so it will just turn into moss stitch, but it's essentially just there at the sleeve to delineate the sleeve. That's another complaint that I've seen people say about the Dagmar, is that there's that big section of moss stitch that's on the, it's not really a problem on the body, but then on the sleeve there's this massive section of moss stitch, and I think moss stitch tends to stretch quite a bit, so it's creating this effect where the sleeve is like bigger, the sleeve cap is bigger than the armhole, and it just look that there, because there's no delineation, it doesn't look very neat. So I'm trying to remedy that with this braid. but I haven't decided what I'm going to do on the sleeves yet. And I think I said, and I think I'm still committed to recharting the sleeves, and basically just doing a different stitch pattern, because although I love the split stitch pattern on the body, I don't think it quite works on the arm, and I feel like it needs something else. So I'll let you know how that goes, and if I do end up recharting it, I don't think I can share the chart, because that would be, I would be smited by petite knit. I don't think I can share the chart, but I can let you know what I did anyway. So that's all remains to be seen. I just need to do the other side now. And it's really slow, but it's really fun. Like, it's really Moorish. I get what people say about cables now. Like, once you memorize the stitch pattern and you're not scared of it. I can't remember if I mentioned this in my last video. And if I did, I'll cut this bit out. So you know how people are like, hey, it's so much quicker if you learn to cable without a cable needle. And I'm like, it can't be that much quicker, right? And I think I just didn't believe them. Or like, I thought I was doing that. So I thought I was cabling without a cable needle, where I would essentially just drop all the stitches off the needle and then work them. Like, pick them up and work them as I was going along. And then I kept dropping stitches, and I was like, this is not quicker. It's way quicker just to have, like, I don't know, a stick or like something to pick up the stitches and do it that way. But I actually discovered the real way that you cable without a cable needle, where you first twist the stitches and put them back on the needle and then work them. And that is actually a lot quicker and a lot easier. I was just dropping stitches and just YOLOing it, just living my life, just working them as they came, and they were all like dropping as I was doing that, because of course you're like pulling on it to work the stitch, and so the next one would just completely like start unraveling. So yeah, so I tend to do this a lot actually when I hear about a technique, and like I just listen to the way that it sounds, and I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds like it makes sense, and then I just go and do it, and then I never look up the proper way to do it. That happened to me when I was learning, like right at the beginning of knitting. I learned how to slip knit, and I was like, okay, that's what it means, slip knit, and then I would literally slip and then just keep knitting, which is not what a slip knit is. And that's the same. I did the same thing where I was like, oh, cabling without a cable needle. I guess you just drop all of the stitches. No, do actually learn the real techniques, because they do actually help. On that note, I'll leave a video somewhere that explains how to do it, if you were under the same impression as me that cabling without a cable needle is scary. It's not that scary, and it does actually speed things up a lot. Do I have anything else to say? No, this is basically just me knitting a pattern. I'm not duping anything. I am doing a few modifications, but they're not major. Yeah, I'm just following the hype. I'm making the Dagmar. The yarn, very quickly, is a cone of woolly knit in an Aran cream nep, I think it's called, or just maybe cream nep, held double, and then I'm holding it with a strand of Drops Flora. They're essentially the same color. Yeah, thereabouts. I think this one's a bit whiter and this one's a bit creamer. But yeah, that's it. I'm knitting on 4.5mm needles, which I love. I love a 4.5mm needle. This is it's funny because this is 3 strands of fingering on a 4.5, and it doesn't feel that tight, but I think that's because the woolly knit is really thin. And it will bloom, but I think when you're knitting with it, it feels really, really thin. It's not the same for this one though. Actually, having said that, this is both the British wool, and yeah, it is thin, but the grey feels a lot thicker when you're knitting with it. Anywho, that is my only whip. I do want to cast on some other things, because now I don't have a stockinette project, which is fine, but I do need to concentrate just the tiniest bit on the Dagmar. So I do need something that's just mindless, that I can knit in certain situations where I need something mindless, like, I don't know, at D&D, I kind of want something that's just stuck in it. Or I don't know, places where you're talking to people and you don't want to make mistakes, I think is a good place for a stockinette project. So I do have some swatches, but I don't actually think I will cast on any of those. I have a test knit, guys. I have a test knit. I have never test knitted anything. I've been knitting for like 3 years at this point. Yeah, I want to say that's correct. And I've never test knit anything. I've applied for countless test knits and I've never been successful. I think it's real tough out there, guys. But I was asked to do a test knit, which is the honor. So I am going to be test knitting, I don't know if I know the name of them, some really cute mittens with scrap yarn, and I'm gonna knit 2 pairs for my nephews, purely because I don't think I would wear, I barely wear my own gloves, so I don't know if I would wear mittens that much, and I just think that they would be really cute on my nephews. So I'm gonna cast on those. I have the pattern. I need to actually just sit down and like gather the yarn. It's a lot of like different colors and things, so I need to sit down and think about what yarn I'm going to use for that. In the meantime, I think, yeah, I will just cast on something that's boring and stockinette. Part of me wants to knit something striped, which I'll show you when I think of it, but I will just show you the 2 swatches. The 2 swatches that I made the other day, I think I was just bored of working on my other projects, so when I do that, I usually just stop knitting swatches. So yeah, so this first one is, I need to basically go back and think about. So this is yarn that I bought on Vinted. I made that Vinted video and there was a couple of yarns that didn't arrive in time, and then they arrived afterwards. So I have a couple of more acquisitions. Vinted have now stopped free shipping from France. The terrible news is that the Vinted shipping is really low. Like, it's not very expensive. It's like €3 basically to do it to a Dropbox. So yeah, I haven't stopped buying on Vinted, but I am buying other things on Vinted, which I'll get into in another video. But yeah, I am still shopping on Vinted and it hasn't really stopped, but I'm trying to not buy any more yarn after this. I think I'm on a yarn ban for the year. I really want to work through some stash. I have a great, amazing stash. Very proud of my stash. But I do actually need to use that stuff. So I am going to stop looking at yarns. The only exception is yarns to finish projects, which is a really good get out of jail free card, because you can really just, you're like, oh, I need a mohair. Oh, I'll buy some mohair. Oh, I need this. So yeah, that one's dangerous, and I'm gonna try and really just knit from stash and not buy anything else. But if I do need something, I will buy something to get other yarns out of stash. But all of that to say that I made another order on Vinted. This is the best one. So hang on, I'll show you. Well, there's this one seller on Vinted that I now follow. She seems to just put things up at really, really low prices. And then they go very, very quickly. So like, I didn't even make any offers. I just went ahead and bought the things. But I got 2 different listings. So there was 4 of these, which is a hand-dyed merino single. It's called, the yarn dyer is called La Fefile. So a French hand dyer. I don't think she dyes anymore. And this is just a merino single, 100 grams. It's quite thick, is it? Yeah. I don't like merino singles usually because I feel like they tend to pill. And it reminds me of that like kind of like unspun like roving yarn. Like, I just feel like anything without a ply I don't tend to love. But this colorway, this is the kind of like hand dyed that I can really get behind. It's like just a gray, like a purpley gray, but then it has all of these like different speckles in it. And the color name really got me as well. It's called vitrail, so it's like a stained glass window kind of vibe. And you can really like, the colors are like, it's like a rich green and then a rich blue and a red and a yellow, and it really does actually feel like a stained glass window. So these colors were gorgeous. There were four of these. So more than a sweater's quantity if you hold it with something else. Plus I got two of these skeins. This is Malabrigo. I've never knit with Malabrigo before. I'm really excited. This is Malabrigo sock. Yeah, just the Malabrigo. In the color Arco Iris, which is this gorgeous like rainbow iris-y color. Yeah, just really, really lovely. I think the other one is slightly different. I wonder if they're the same dye lot actually. They look kind of different. Oh, they're kettle dyed. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe that's, oh, literally says no dye lot on it. I don't know if that's typical for Malabrigo yarn. I've never knit with Malabrigo, so I don't know. Maybe that is typical, but they're the same color family anyway. And I only have two of these. Again, fingering weight, 400 meters, superwash merino. Yeah, just very, very pretty. I didn't have a plan for this when I bought them, but it was just too good to pass up. And I got like a bundle discount, like 10% on the two, and bought them straight away. And I think all 6 skeins came out at like €50, which is, it's like less than €10 for a skein of hand-dyed yarn, which I think is really great. Eventually, I think this I'll probably hold with, I want to say maybe like a dark purple or a dark brown main yarn, and have something that, like, I think this is too colorful for me personally in a garment. But I think having those colors sort of peek through in a main color is a really nice way, maybe with a mohair, so like a dark brown mohair and then a dark brown fingering weight or something, and then the colors will just kind of like come through without being too overpowering, and it'll make like a boring sweater more interesting. And you know, like on a really simple like stockinette pattern, I think would be nice. There's only 800 meters, so I'd be cutting it fine, but I think if you make it up to like a Aran, basically like a DK and a mohair, I think I could probably get away with it, she says, hoping. So that's my plan with that. And then my original plan with these was to do a similar thing. So hold it with a grey mohair and a grey yarn, and then have the colours kind of peeking through. And I swatched that. That's what I swatched here. So I have a Drops Kid Silk in a grey colour, which actually has been in stash for forever. I bought it for another project. It was the wrong yarn, and I really wanted to get it out of stash. And I think I finally actually will with this project. But yeah, I held it with actually where is it? I held it with the steel grey from earlier. Probably a blessing, because I don't think I have enough here to do a full sweater and fingering. This is I do have other, I have a couple of other cakes that I wound up held double, so I could separate those and maybe have enough, but I'm not 100% sure, so maybe that's a blessing. But yeah, anyway, I held the 3 together, and it was just, you were just kind of losing the effect of the hand dyed, which I thought was a shame. So, and that was on 5mm needles. And then this one, I just dropped the strand of fingering and just did the hand dyed with the mohair. And I think this is more the vibe we're going for. So that's on 4mm needles. It's a neutral, but it has all of these kind of like flecks coming through, and I think that's really nice. But my original plan was just to do a big stockinette jumper and have it be like a really just elevated basic kind of deal. I was going to use a Tiffany Bliss pattern. Tiffany Lou, typical Bliss pattern. But now at this gauge, this is quite loosey-goosey. I think it's quite stretchy. I think I might even want to go down a needle size. And I don't have plans for a DK. I don't know what I want. It will be a lighter fabric, so I don't want like a big oversized jumper, because I don't think that will translate. I was thinking maybe, is it called the Copenhagen cardigan? That really simple cardigan that's quite close fitting that Petite made. I thought maybe without the pockets, I thought that would be just like a nice basic. But I don't know, I think I just need to go back and think about it and sort of find the perfect project for this yarn. I also considered as well, instead of this like big fingering, maybe just holding a lace weight to kind of bulk it up and then, you know, get away with sort of a denser fabric. But yeah, I need to think some more about that, so we'll just park that. Actually, whilst we're talking about vintage purchases from the same seller, because she's just great, I bought 4 of these, which is a lace weight, what is this? It's called the denim lace. So it's a cotton made with recycled denim from Rowan. And this is like a really like denim-y blue kind of color. There's 4 of them. There's so much meterage here. Like this is 400 meters and there's 4 of them. So you do the math. I bought this because I thought it would be a really good summer yarn, potentially for that rose knitwear, like lacy top. I'll put a picture up. The only summer knit maybe I'll knit this year, we'll see. And it was €10 for 4 of them. And I didn't even look up the cost of these originally, but Rowan is usually really expensive. So I think that's a good deal. And I just bought that. So sorry, yeah, that's vintage. And then my last swatch is big, black and boring. This will likely be the most boring thing that I knit this year, but I think I will wear it loads. So this is Drops Air, Drops Kid Silk, and a strand of woolly knit, all in black, held together on 7mm needles. And this is a swatch for the Henley, the typical Henley, I think it's called, by Tiffany Lou. I wanted to test knit that. When it first, like genuinely, like it when she first showed it, it was so long ago. And I've basically just been waiting for it to come out for the longest time. I love Typical Bliss, but I think her schedules and her I'm not on her Patreon, maybe that's the problem. But her communication of like when things will be coming out and when they're being tested, I find is not great. But I know she also has a lot going on, so I don't want to be too critical. But at the same time, I feel like I see a lot of things on her channel and I'm like, I really want to knit that, but I have absolutely no idea when it's going to be available. That was the case with the Typical Henley and a couple of other things I wanted to knit this year. It's just a Henley. And actually, I think this is going to be the only time I knit with like essentially the recommended yarns. But I just want a Henley. I think it'll look really good over like a white t-shirt in a black. I don't have a black knit, hand knit. I have a black cashmere jumper, but something that simple, I just think I will reach for all the time. And yeah, I've wanted to knit it for forever, and it's 7mm needles. It'll be so quick, right? Yeah, so I need to check if I'm on gauge. I think I'll cast that on soon. So basically I discovered that pattern was available, and I didn't realize that it had been released. So yeah, I got out my needles. And I've had this yarn waiting around for like a full year, just waiting for this thing to come out. There are other Henley patterns that I could have also probably just drafted it myself, but I didn't want to. I just want to knit that one. It's the perfect gauge, and I basically have all the yarns. So yeah, I think I will cast that on soon. It's so boring, but I think it'll be really useful. And that's me. I feel like this wasn't the most exciting episode in the world, but it is the reality of what I've been knitting and what I've been up to. I really apologize if my voice has been annoying. Trust me, it's annoying to me too. The annoying thing is that I feel fine. I feel completely normal. I'm just so congested and I just can't get it to go away. So yeah, I apologize for that. I could have probably waited another week to film this video, but the charts need us. thank you for watching. I will be back soon, I hope. I'm gonna wait another couple of days to see if this goes away, but I'm gonna film another couple of videos back to back, because one of them is related to the end of the year, and it's like February now, and I really need to get that out. But yeah, I want to film a knitting goals video, because I think I've had some reflections about the things that I've knit last year, and I think that has translated into some sort of like resolutions that I think are interesting. And then something I'm not very good at keeping secrets, but one of the things that I want to do this year, I will make a full dedicated video about, and I also want to get that out soon because I want to start working on the thing. And if I don't film the thing, then I can't work on the thing. So yeah, so hopefully there will be some more coming your way very shortly. But I am slow in all things, including editing and knitting and everything else. So I make no promises, and who knows if I just won't get sick again for the third time. I don't know. But yeah, thank you so much for watching me chat about yarn whilst still kind of sick. Yeah, if you have any recommendations for what to do with this yarn, let me know, because it's so pretty. And you know, apart from that hand-dyed yarn thing that I never finished that is hibernating, I haven't really ever knit with like a full hand-dyed project, so I think it's exciting, and I think that Vinted is a really nice way to sort of get into that without sort of having the full cost of it. I've chatted to so many of you about your Vinted purchases, and I'm so grateful. It's like, I'm just so nosy, and I just love, please show me what you bought on there. I just love it so much. Thank you for watching. Thank you. There's about, I think my subscribers have like 1.5x'd. Does that make sense? Doubled and then some since the last time that I filmed a podcast, or like since the new year. So thank you so much if you're here because of one of the past 2 videos that I filmed. Yeah, there's a lot more of you. I'm a bit scared. Please don't hate my more chatty videos. I mean, I feel like I have to say this at the end of every video now, but thank you so much for being here. I found out that Breathing Yarn knows who I am the other day, and I just like, It's a very strange thing when you like watch people on your TV and then they become people that you chat to and are real. Like, obviously the people are real, but I don't know. I'm not every video is just gonna have some like sappy just reflection at the end. I hope from now on, but yeah, I think this is unprecedented for me. So yeah, thank you so much, and I will speak to you soon. And my dogs are as annoying as ever, but I'll include some footage probably of them being annoying. And okay, speak to you soon. Bye. Cough break and coffee break. I don't need to tell you that. You know what this video is. Jesus Christ.